She looks at you, and then quickly looks away. You catch her glance for half a second, and in that instant, something feels different. But before you can even process it, she hides behind indifference, pretending you're just another guy in the room. What if I told you that some of the most powerful signals a woman sends are the ones she tries hardest to cover up? The truth is, when a woman likes you but doesn't want you to know, her body and emotions betray her, leaving behind signs most men miss. Signs that, once you understand them, change the way you see every interaction you've ever had with women. You've probably been in this situation before, standing next to a woman, feeling this invisible current of energy between you, but then doubting yourself because she isn't saying anything, isn't admitting anything, isn't making it obvious. And that's where most men fail, not because the woman doesn't like them, but because they misread silence as rejection, when in reality, silence often hides attraction. Women are masters at concealing desire, not because they want to reject you, but because revealing it feels risky. Risky to their pride, risky to their social standing, risky to their emotions. So instead, they cloak it with restraint, leaving you confused, second-guessing, and often walking away from something real. But if you learn to read the unspoken language, the micro signs buried in her actions, you suddenly unlock a hidden world. It's not about cheesy pickup lines or forcing attraction. It's about understanding the psychology that women can't control, the involuntary things they do when they're around a man they quietly want. For example, notice the way her energy shifts when you enter a room. She may not speak to you directly, but her posture changes. She adjusts her hair, fixes her clothes, or suddenly becomes more animated in conversation with others, because your presence subconsciously activates her need to impress. She doesn't do it for everyone. She does it for the man her instincts tell her is valuable. Another overlooked sign is the way she listens. Women who like you but don't want to show it will often act casual, but they tune into every word you say. You'll catch her laughing at your smallest jokes, responding to details others miss, or remembering things you barely recall mentioning. That's not just politeness. That's emotional investment disguised as friendship. She might not say, "I like you," but the way her mind clings to your presence is proof enough. And here's something most men never realize. Her resistance, the little walls she puts up, are often part of the game she's playing with herself. It's not about you failing. It's about her trying to test if her attraction to you is safe. Women rarely reveal their feelings up front because they want to see if you are steady, if you can lead, if you notice without needing her to spell it out. Every glance she hides, every smile she suppresses, every time she pretends to be uninterested, it's her way of asking, "Can you really see me? Or are you like every other man who gives up too soon?" And that's the heartbreaking part, because so many men, maybe even you, have walked away from women who were silently waiting for you to see the truth. You thought she wasn't interested. She thought you didn't care enough to notice. Two people caught in a silent battle of pride and fear. The tragedy isn't rejection, it's missed connection. Right now, you might even be thinking of someone, that woman who laughed a little too hard at your story, that coworker who brushed by you and seemed flustered, that friend who always lingers in conversation, even when she has no reason to. At the time, you shrugged it off. But what if she was hiding the very feelings you were searching for? What if her silence wasn't rejection, but attraction buried under caution? The truth is, men who learn this, men who see through the disguise, never look at women the same way again. They stop doubting. They stop chasing blindly. Instead, they read, they observe, they move with calm certainty. And women feel it. A woman who secretly likes you will notice when you can see through her act, when you don't fall for the mask. That's when her guard starts to break. Because deep down, she doesn't want to hide forever. She wants to be seen, to be felt, to be understood without judgment. And if you can give her that, if you can recognize her silent signals and respond with strength instead of insecurity, you become the rare man who unlocks a part of her no one else has touched. Think about this. Women are constantly aware of how they're being perceived. Every move, every glance, every reaction, they calculate it. Why? Because women know the cost of vulnerability. For a man, showing interest might sting his pride if he's rejected. For a woman, showing interest exposes her entire emotional core. It puts her at risk of being judged, mocked, or taken advantage of. That's why the signs she gives are never obvious. Instead, they're coded messages hidden beneath layers of self-control. One of the strongest signs is tension. Not the kind of tension that feels awkward or uncomfortable, but the kind that lingers like static in the air. She'll stand near you, but not too close. She'll make eye contact, but then glance away too quickly. She'll act normal with everyone else, but with you, there's a subtle nervousness, an energy she can't disguise. That nervousness is attraction leaking out of her, no matter how hard she tries to suppress it. And here's the part most men miss. Women who don't care about you don't bother to hide anything. They're relaxed, unaffected, almost careless. If she's composed with others but a little restless with you, that difference is everything. You'll also notice contradictions in her behavior. She might tease you lightly, then suddenly become serious. She might avoid you one day, then find excuses to be around you the next. To the untrained eye, it looks like mixed signals, but in truth, it's her wrestling match between desire and fear. Part of her wants to let you see her interest, while another part screams at her to protect her pride. That inner conflict creates patterns men mistake for disinterest, when in reality, it's proof that she feels something she can't ignore. Now let's talk about attention. When a woman secretly likes you, she pays attention in ways most men underestimate. She'll notice the way you cut your hair, the small changes in your style, or the tone in your voice when you're tired. She'll remember things you said weeks ago, small details you might not even recall sharing. This isn't coincidence. This is selective focus. Out of everyone she interacts with, you stand out enough for her brain to lock in and hold on to the smallest pieces of you. That's attraction disguised as curiosity. And then there are the micro gestures, the small things you'd overlook if you weren't paying attention. Does she touch her lips when you speak? Does she mirror your posture without realizing it? Does she lean in slightly, even when she doesn't have to? These aren't accidents. They're subconscious cues that women give when they're drawn to someone. They might try to mask it with indifference, but the body doesn't lie. And the man who learns to notice these tells gains an advantage most men will never have. But here's where it gets dangerous. Too many men misinterpret friendliness as attraction. Women can be warm, kind, and engaging without being interested in anything more. That's why reading just one sign is never enough. The real truth comes from patterns, the way her nervousness, attention, and micro-gestures stack on top of each other. One sign could be coincidence. 3 or 4, that's attraction, whether she admits it or not. And this is where the psychology becomes even deeper. A woman who hides her interest isn't trying to deceive you. She's testing reality. She wants to see if you notice without her having to hand it to you on a silver plate. She wants to know if you're tuned in, if you're perceptive enough to sense the difference between friendly and interested. Why? Because women know that a man who can't pick up on subtlety won't be able to handle the complexity of her emotions later. Attraction is the first test. She won't spell it out for you, because if she has to, it feels like she's chasing you, and that ruins the magic for her. And here's the harsh truth. Most men fail this test. They either ignore the signals completely, walking away from something real, or they overanalyze and project interest where none exists, creating awkward situations. But the man who gets it right, the man who notices the patterns without jumping the gun, he becomes unforgettable. Because to her, he feels different. He feels rare. He feels like the man who can see her without her having to shout for attention. Imagine this. You're sitting across from her. She's trying to play it cool, but you notice the way she twists her ring when you speak, the way her voice softens when she asks you questions, the way her laughter lingers just a little too long. You don't call it out. You don't make it awkward. Instead, you stay calm, steady, grounded. That calmness tells her everything. It tells her you're not desperate. It tells her you're not fooled by the surface. It tells her you can handle the depth of her attraction without collapsing under pressure. And that is what makes her lean in further. There's something haunting about the way women hide what they feel. On the surface, they'll look calm, collected, untouchable. But underneath, there's a storm they can't fully control. When a woman likes you and doesn't want you to know, it leaks out in the smallest cracks of her armor. Most men miss these cracks, but the man who notices them without rushing, without exposing her, becomes the one she respects and the one she trusts. One of the most powerful cracks is jealousy. Not the loud, dramatic kind, but the subtle sting she tries to bury. Pay attention. When you talk to other women, does she suddenly withdraw, go quiet, or find excuses to distract herself? Maybe she makes a playful comment, teasing you about being a ladies' man. On the surface, it's a joke. Underneath, it's her emotions spilling over. She feels threatened, but doesn't want to admit why. If she didn't care, she'd never notice. If she does care, she'll cover it with sarcasm, indifference, or jokes that sound harmless but carry weight. That's jealousy disguised as humor. Then there's the way she invests in your growth. Women don't go out of their way to push men they don't feel anything for. But when she secretly likes you, she'll give advice, encourage you, or show genuine interest in your ambitions. She may frame it as friendship, but it's more than that. She's emotionally tied to your success, watching you more closely than she admits. Men often brush this off, thinking she's just being nice. But niceness doesn't come with that much investment. What you're seeing is hidden care. And let's not overlook the silence. Women who secretly like you often retreat into quiet moments, not because they're bored, but because they're overwhelmed by their feelings. Around you, she may pause longer before answering, stumble over words, or even lose her train of thought. These little slips aren't weakness. They're her mind racing faster than her composure can handle. You may think she's disinterested, when in reality, she's battling to hide the chaos inside. Another hidden sign lies in her protective behavior. Notice how she reacts when others speak negatively about you, even in a joking way. A woman who doesn't care will laugh it off. A woman who secretly likes you will defend you, even subtly. She'll jump in, correct the joke, or shift the conversation to shield your image. She may not admit why, but her instinct to protect you is attraction in disguise. And if you're sharp enough to see it, you'll realize her actions are louder than words ever could be. Now, here's where many men sabotage themselves. They expect women to show attraction in the same way men do, direct, obvious, straightforward. But women rarely operate that way. Their psychology is layered, cautious, and strategic. They're drawn to men who can sense those layers without needing everything spelled out. If you're the man who needs her to confess, "I like you," before you see it, you'll always lose to the man who can read the unspoken. And that's the power of awareness. When you notice the subtle signs, a sudden change in tone, the way her mood shifts around you, the small jealous remarks, the protective instincts, you no longer chase blindly. You move with purpose. You no longer wonder, does she like me? You already know. And that certainty changes everything about how you carry yourself. Because here's the deeper truth. Attraction is fragile in the beginning. A woman who secretly likes you is walking a thin line between desire and doubt. If you misread her signals, if you push too hard or ignore them completely, you can crush what she's feeling before it has a chance to grow. But if you recognize them, if you meet her subtle energy with steady confidence, you give her permission to lean in further. You make it safe for her to stop hiding. And this is where connection begins, not in the loud declarations or dramatic confessions, but in the quiet moments where you both feel the truth without words. She may not say, "I like you," but she'll linger when she doesn't need to. She'll look at you just a little longer than necessary. She'll test the waters with small hints, waiting to see if you're perceptive enough to notice. And when you do notice, when you respond with calm, unshakable presence, you separate yourself from every man who ever overlooked her subtlety. Imagine the power in that moment. She realizes you saw through her act without embarrassing her, without putting her on the spot. You didn't call her out. You didn't make her feel exposed. Instead, you simply responded as if you knew all along, steady and confident. That's when her guard crumbles. That's when she feels understood in a way that most men will never understand her. And here's the secret: women will never admit openly. They crave that kind of man. A man who doesn't need validation, a man who notices without being needy, a man who reads between the lines and instead of fumbling with nerves, remains grounded. The most painful truth men learn too late is this: women rarely reveal attraction directly. They don't stand in front of you and confess what they feel. Instead, they leave signs, trails, and hidden clues, and most men never learn to read them. Not because they're blind, but because they expect attraction to scream instead of whisper. And by the time they realize what those whispers meant, the woman is already gone, convinced he never cared, never noticed, never saw her for who she really was. But here's the raw reality you need to hear. A woman who secretly likes you doesn't want to hide it forever. She's waiting for you to see through her mask. She's waiting for you to notice what others miss. She's waiting for you to be strong enough, calm enough, grounded enough that she can finally drop her walls and let her emotions surface. This is why the man who learns to read subtle signs becomes unforgettable, because he sees what no one else does, and women feel it deep in their bones when a man understands them without needing words. Think back to the signs we've uncovered. The nervous tension when you're near. The way she hides glances but keeps looking back when she thinks you won't notice. The jealous remarks disguised as jokes. The way she invests in your growth, protects your reputation, or remembers things you barely recall saying. These aren't coincidences. They're her heart sending signals her pride refuses to admit. They're attraction in its rawest form. Messy, quiet, concealed, but powerful. And here's what separates strong men from ordinary men: the ability to respond without insecurity. Ordinary men either miss the signs completely or rush to expose them, trying to force a confession. But strong men, they read the energy, they recognize the truth, and they move with calm assurance. They don't chase desperately, they don't corner her into admitting feelings, they allow space, they lead with presence, and they give her the safety to reveal herself naturally. That's why women can't forget men who master this, because to her, it feels like magic, finally being seen without having to shout. This is what changes everything about relationships, dating, and attraction. You stop being confused. You stop wondering if she likes you. You stop walking away from women who secretly wanted you but were too afraid to say it. Instead, you move with certainty, reading what most men ignore, and that certainty makes you magnetic. Women sense it. They feel your grounded confidence, and it makes them want to lean in closer, to lower their guard, to let you see even more. But I want you to hear something important. Don't misuse this knowledge. This isn't about manipulation. It's not about playing games or forcing women into vulnerability. It's about respect. It's about being perceptive enough to notice when she's opening the door, even just an inch, and being steady enough to earn the right to walk through it. Women admire men who see them without judgment. They're drawn to men who recognize attraction, but handle it with maturity. That's why this understanding is so rare and so powerful. Now imagine how your life changes when you master this. No more confusion about where you stand. No more walking away from women who were quietly interested. No more self-doubt when she plays it cool. Instead, you'll start to notice the little things, the way her laughter lingers, the way her energy shifts, the way her walls crack just enough to let you see through. And in that moment, you'll realize something most men never understand. Women don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be perceptive. They need you to notice what others overlook. They need you to make them feel safe enough to stop hiding. And when you do, everything changes. The friendships that could have been more, the coworkers who admired you silently, the women you thought were uninterested, but were secretly hoping you'd see them. All of it becomes clear. You'll start to connect in ways you never imagined. Not by chasing harder, not by begging for attention, but by understanding the psychology that women can't fully control. That's when you stop living in doubt and start living in certainty. So the next time you catch her looking away too quickly, the next time she makes a jealous joke, the next time her voice softens around you, don't ignore it. Don't rush it. Recognize it. Smile inwardly. Stay calm. That's when you show her you're not like the others. That's when you make her feel seen in a way she'll never forget. And now I want to leave you with a question only you can answer. Have you ever looked back at a moment in your life and realized a woman was showing you signs, but you were too blind to see them at the time? Think about it. Share your story in the comments. I want to hear it. And if this video opened your eyes, if it made you see women differently, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend.